What's up, what's good? The Wolf is here, back again with another Let's Talk video. And this one, it's going to be a little bit of a different one, something that I've actually never done before. I'm going to be talking about spoilers. Major spoilers, actually, like the major storyline stuff that is going on in Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's a ton of different theories going on, and my brain, just like everyone else's, after seeing the finale, has just been going around in circles, creating the theory, creating the whole timeline of what I think is going to be happening. I am coming off from the perspective of that there is some similar writers. So I was digging around a little bit, and between the Advent Children writers and like directors, the directors and the writers, that's like the main two key features right here. So writers Nojima, Katase, and all that for the original. And then for the remake, let me see here. What was that I was looking at? So Nojima, back again. But Toriyama. Now, Toriyama, that's, and Katase is very, very similar because Toriyama, so yeah, Katase was a producer on Final Fantasy 13. And Toriyama is one of the main writers from Final Fantasy 13. Now, I was saying on stream, and I know Let's Talk videos for the trailers and everything, that if remake feels a lot like Final Fantasy 13 to me. It's just a vibe. Cloud kind of, I don't know. He's kind of similar to The remake Cloud is kind of a little more similar to Lightning, the way that she was kind of portrayed, of being like, I am a soldier, I am on a mission, I am ready to go. I'm not looking for anybody to be like, the family members with me. But then they both, as main characters, they grow into, okay, I'm cool with this now. I have people around me. I have my crew. We can take on the world if we need to. So it's that very similar kind of, the very Final Fantasy style story going on. So one of the number one things I definitely, I made the video of it, and I was kind of like touching upon, is that even the opening cinematics for FF13 and FF7 Remake are very similar on the story that it's trying to convey, the story that it's trying to tell. So I know a lot of people really look at this and they really don't want that to be a thing. But because nostalgia wise, like, they don't want their nostalgia to be clouded by the fact that FF7 and FF13 are very similar in the way. Even right here, when you see look at this right here on the 13 on the left hand side of the screen over here. And this is FF7 Remake on the right hand side. FF13 Remake, boy, the numbers. Kind of almost looks like the Promised Land in the sense that is it the Promised Land, the ancients, the land. I think it was called the Promised Land or something like that. They call it in there. Of like, this is going to be what the ancients are going to create of this whole land. By the way, I am not an expert in any of this lore. I am just going off from what I've seen. I literally just barely played like a few months ago was the first time I ever played through FF7, and then I've seen off from other streams playthroughs of Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus and such. So like, I don't have like the full-on 100% playthrough runs of all the perspectives or anything. I'm just going off from what I've seen so far. In all honesty, I'm kind of the outsider's point of view looking in, but also the point of view of just seeing other Final Fantasies do kind of similar trends and taking that logic into basically where Remake could possibly go. I don't know. It's probable in my mind of where they're going to go. Anyways, so very similar intros and everything. They're kind of showing the cities off and all that. And again, this just goes to show that like the directors and the writers are similar people, working on both of these projects, to the point where, even even how they are showing like Vanille, I think it is. She is, yes, because Fang is the one that wears blue. Vanille is the one who wears like pink. Even down to the point when they show kind of the spellcasters of the two games, it's almost a shot-for-shot recreation of both. The way that the intros line up with the train sequences starting off, where Cloud and Lightning are both on trains coming in, and they are getting ready for a fight. Even the guards look kind of similar. It's a very similar vision. Now, I'm going to get off from this subject of them being, of the openings being similar. We're going to close that tab right down. Anyways, so Advent Children also, of course, is sprinkled all throughout this whole game. Let's go back to this explanation video real quick.
Of the dark-haired soldier who appears in the final cutscenes. While the game doesn't even reveal his name unless you have the subtitles on, that is, which is
kind of bad storytelling, let's be honest. It's kind of bad storytelling, but at the same time, in the age of the internet, I think that's where the guys that are coming up with the vision for like how do we convey the story through. I think all the writers and everybody, it's like they're like, okay, it's the age of the internet. If people want to know who this guy is, they're gonna go look him up. There's YouTube videos, there's wiki pages, there's everything. You can even emulate games nowadays, so it's very easy to get this information. It's not like incredibly difficult to figure out who in the hell Zack is, or this the black-haired guy that has Cloud's armor on. If you type that in, I'm thinking Zack's name's going to come up. So I think that's where they were like, okay, if people are very interested in this, they'll dig a little bit deeper and get that information.
Zack Fair, a major character from Cloud's past.
Yes.
If you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, Zack's appearance will no doubt be incredibly confusing,
this is
as
great
there is no
setup right
context
here.
given as to why he's important. The cliff notes are that Cloud and Zack both used to work for Shinra, and were once on a major mission with Sephiroth in Cloud's hometown of Nibelheim. Oh, and he's also Aerith's ex-boyfriend. In the original game, Zack is dead. Very dead. The mission in Nibelheim resulted in Sephiroth learning his true nature as a scientific experiment, and in his anger he burnt the town to the ground. Cloud and Zack managed to stop him, but both passed out after the fight. They were then taken by Professor Hojo and experimented on as part of a project known as Genova Reunion, which was an attempt to restore the alien creature that was used to create Sephiroth. That's the gross thing that you saw in the Shinra HQ. Zack eventually managed to escape Hojo and dragged a severely Mako-poisoned Cloud with him. He travelled to Midgar with hopes of building a new life, but was stopped by a group of Shinra soldiers who brutally executed him. Barely conscious, Cloud took Zack's weapon, the Buster Sword, from his body and completed the journey to Midgar alone. In the finale of Final Fantasy VII Remake, we see that Zack survives his fight with the Shinra guard.
Okay, now this is where I want to stop this video right here. I actually have not watched this full video. I just watched up to this point right here, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to start my own, theory going and everything, so I don't get, plot points mixed up or anything. So that was a great explanation of the story of all the different games and everything, except for Advent Children, which Advent Children, I'll get to that in a minute. But so what's very important about this character right here is one of the first times that you really get to see that, in the fact of like it kind of clicks with the player if like the backstory and you've seen who Zack is and everything. One of the first times where it really dawns on you of like, wait a second, the story's really changing here. It's not just the main plot lines being kind of shifted around a bit. There's actually some real change going on here. Is when Cloud and Aerith, they are sitting on top of a little playground structure, and let me bring up the clip real quick. So they are sitting on top of this playground structure, and the dialogue back and forth is literally Cloud and Aerith talking about how Cloud is an ex-soldier. And the other thing about this too is like Cloud is, instead of him being like, yeah, I was totally an ex-soldier, yeah, he is like dead set on like, I was an ex-soldier, or I am an ex-soldier, sorry, I was totally a soldier 100%. I made it, I went through the training, I did the whole thing, and now here I am, however long it's been later. Now, the very interesting part, this was one of the first times where I was like, whoa, they are really shifting stuff. I was expecting, just like everybody else, that when Eric says, oh, you just remind me of like somebody I used to know, and then the whole bzz happens, his head starts freaking out on him. Now, I've heard the theory that this is, this type of thing right here is, Cloud's future self talking to him and trying to basically like Polygon Cloud trying to talk to this Cloud here and trying to tell him there's something going to be happening very bad. Don't let it happen. I don't think that's exactly the case. I think there's something different, which I will get into in just a minute. So, and this is like this is the reason why I wanted to make this video, because this lore is crazy. So we have that moment happen, and that's really like the first time, because the first time that we see something really different happen is actually when Sephiroth, when you're starting up the game for the first time. It is launch night, and we are starting up the game. We're seeing the credits going and everything, and there is one major moment that is a major difference. All right. Actually, there's two of them. So I was totally forgetting that Cloud actually sees Sephiroth like walking down the street. So this is a major plotline shift. It's not a change in the plotline though. This is the first moment that you're like, whoa, stuff is shifting around. Like the plotline, we don't ever see this until way later on in the game. And like this would be technically kind of like the second, part 2 of the remake storyline, but they are throwing it right at us. Now, that's one of the major things I said leading into remake. After I played the original Final Fantasy VII, I was like, they could really use to shift some plot lines around, because Cloud's character doesn't get built up until like halfway through the game. Like, you don't really get to know who Cloud is. You're seeing like this build. You're seeing a build up of all the characters around Cloud and a slight little hints of Sephiroth. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, Cloud's the main character, so why not just build him up along with the other characters, and then sprinkle in Sephiroth still, but make him a little bit more prominent. And they did it in such a just like a beautiful way of doing it. Of just like, okay, we're going to flash Cloud's, not only background, but his memories of stuff that happened in his past. Now, this just goes to show that it is the exact same Cloud that we know from the original timeline. This is the original timeline. It's a remake. It's not a remaster. So plot lines are shifted in the remake of things. Because this is a reimagining, retelling. It's a reimagining, but with all, very, very similar plot lines that are being hit in just different spots, different points. Which is it's still a true remake, not a remaster. So in that fact that it is a true remake, they can get away with throwing Sephiroth right at you. And like having this whole thing of like, what in the hell is this like hometown? Like the player, you might not know that this is his hometown. You might know it's his hometown. It doesn't matter if you do or not. You just know that this is a very critical piece of information of like, this is something from Cloud's past. You're kind of getting that. I know that flashbacks can be very like unfocused, or not unfocused, but very kind of like a weird factor in storytelling for a lot of people. But at the same time, it makes you like start guessing of like, what is this? What is this hometown that he's seeing, or this old town that he's seeing? Is it his hometown? Is it something from his past or something like that? Most people, I think, do catch on to that. They just don't know what the hell it is. So I guess the next best thing to go into is Sephiroth, and just what is Sephiroth? I think Sephiroth is the same type of thing that he was in the original game, of being like there's clones of Sephiroth, and then there's the Genova cells. Now I think the Genova cells are going to be working a little bit differently, as in you're going to be seeing. I think we're going to be seeing in part 2 that Genova's cells work differently in the fact that Genova is a living kind of creature organism, but it can also talk to people. And I think that is part of the thing of actually the ghosts. The next big moment that is actually kind of changing things for the Final Fantasy VII from the original storyline to the remake. The kind of change is just how Aerith and Cloud are meeting. And I think that these changes like this, not just like because I think there's two things happening. First, we have Genova literally pushing the original storyline going forward. Sephiroth is there, but in cloned form, trying to mess with the timeline, but he's trying to change the future. There's not multi-timelines. I wouldn't call it multi-timelines. I would call it, it's just the future is a blank slate. Sephiroth, through the live stream, knows that he can get so much power and energy and everything that he can end up getting into time and space and everything itself. Genova is seeing this, and because it doesn't want to be destroyed, it is, talking to Cloud through, or actually it's not even talking to Cloud. I think it's definitely talking to Aerith, more or less. That's the reason why Aerith is like, get away from me. And she literally, she goes into it too. Like later on in the story, she says that, the Whisperers are actually, the ghosts, they are actually talking to me and they are telling me stuff. Now, the Whisperers to me is the spirits that, they're part of the live stream, the spirits that are trying to get into the live stream, but they're caught there. And it's because Genova's keeping them there because Genova needs a way of getting, these people, Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa and Aerith and Sid and Vincent, and like I think that just like Genova needs to get them on that path so then they can end up building up enough to be that one cohesive family unit to take down Sephiroth, a kind of eater of worlds in an aspect. Sephiroth is on the track to getting so damn powerful that he's going to destroy everything, and Genova is scared by that. So then Genova is using, the plot ghosts or the pure spirits, whatever the meme you want to say, using the Whispers to make sure that because the one possible future that they can go down is that they defeat Sephiroth. Cloud defeats Sephiroth. I don't think Sephiroth knows it. I think Sephiroth is just kind of just toying with Cloud because he can. I think he sees something in Cloud, like that spark of, greatness in there. And I think he wants to try and use that for his own personal benefit, as all bad guys try and do. But then Genova is kind of playing Sephiroth in that way. Like, I think he's playing Genova while Genova's kind of playing him. Also on top of that, like there's so many layers to this story that I think we're going to be seeing throughout part 2 and part 3. So I know that there was a lot of also fans were like questioning, how does this whole scene like actually work? Just in the fact that, it seems like Aerith kind of knows Marlene. Well, if you remember back on the original story, Marlene's father is, again, big spoiler alert, but Marlene's father is dead. What does Aerith have the ability to do? Speak with spirits from the live stream and everything. So how would it be so far-fetched that Marlene's father tells Aerith there's going to be this girl named Tifa, because, the spirit world, the spirits are all around. We see that with the Whispers. Genova could be using Marlene's father's, spirit to be like, okay, this is the anchor in the real, in the human realm or whatever. And go and tell Aerith that there's just going to be this little girl named Marlene. There's going to be this girl named Tifa, Barrett, all the characters. So Aerith gets a heads up from the spirit world. Because you also end up seeing that Marlene kind of has this like ancient touch. Maybe even she is an ancient in this thing herself. Like maybe she also has kind of the bloodline somehow in her or something. And that could be like Marlene could be a very, very way more expanded character because of that. Again, all theories. We don't know exactly what Marlene's backstory is because we have to wait. So see this right here with the kind of bzz going on. It's just like and right here, Aerith is like, shh, you have an ability, don't tell anybody about it. I think that's what the shh is. It's like her saying like, okay, that power you just felt, it's just kind of that instinct reaction that Aerith has from working with kids and everything in her hometown, which also her hometown has Avalanche right in her backyard. Like the stamp thing is right there. Biggs is, part of the hometown, this and that. So, I mean, if Aerith is going out with Zack, and if Zack literally, I guess took Aerith home or whatever, and because, Aerith's mother knows Cloud. Aerith's mother stops and looks at Cloud like, who the hell is this? She knows the uniform. She's seen that uniform on Zack before. So that means Zack has been around Avalanche. Now this leads into, I think it's just time to lead right into the ending. So let's just jump into the ending. I think I've kind of built up my ending theory on everything. So as you know, Zack in the original story gets killed. Who's to say they can't redo it just a little bit? As this kind of goes on to
Much
say.
of his appearance here is actually a shot-for-shot remake of the ending of Crisis Core, the PSP sequel to FF7 that puts Zack as the protagonist. But instead of falling dead, he picks Cloud up and continues his journey to Midgar as planned.
Now, I think this is a huge cliffhanger, but we don't actually know what it means. In the aspect of, yes, this is Crisis Core's ending. Yes, there's a lot of nostalgia there. He does say the line about, hey, Cloud, he's kind of like talking to himself of like, hey, Cloud, I think I beat them all and everything. Now, of course, we see the explosion happen, which I think is the explosion between Sephiroth and Cloud. This is all in the same timeline. At this point, since this is a remake, I think Zack, so you would think Cloud is back there all just like out and everything. No. But I think that Zack has gone on this mission solo. He's built himself up to being this, rough and tough warrior. Same way that Cloud has been going through this whole adventure leading up to a fight with Sephiroth. Zack sees the explosion off in the distance like, what in the hell was that? What in the hell am I even looking at? Now, if you notice, there is gold sparkles, and in the town, there is also the same sparkles happening, leading me to believe this is, in a lot of ways, the same timeline. Now, yes, there is this whole thing of like, but I think this is also the same timeline until it shifts into a flashback. So this is the same timeline. Same timeline as what was happening with Cloud. Same timeline as what was happening with Cloud. So Cloud and Sephiroth, they had their battle and this and that stuff at the same time. Zack is over here looking and seeing this huge explosion happening and everything. Zack is still alive. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is the original timeline, but Zack is definitely still alive. So then, as you can see, the town folks are all working on that stuff. They are trying to, rebuild Sector 7. So that is Seventh Heaven's board and everything. Now, I've heard some stuff that the cracks are different and whatnot. I don't know. I think that could be just an animation thing. Now, right there, you see the sparks happening from the big explosion between Sephiroth and Cloud, leading me to believe that this is the exact same timeline still. Now, this is where it gets a little bit like, So, Marlene... Okay, so first, we definitely see that is, I'm pretty sure, Biggs's little headband he wears and his gloves on the desk right there. We see Biggs is definitely alive. Again, remake, not remaster, but a remake, so it's a retelling. Now Marlene, she senses like there's something weird right here, which to me again kind of, and you notice she senses it right when the plant has a little drip going down. So it's kind of like the planet's telling her. Barrett's whole philosophy on the planet. Genova is now technically kind of part of the planet in that way of like it's part of the life stream where, you know, they're getting all the Mako energy and everything, all that stuff. So I think that Genova is kind of, in a way, saying something to Marlene. She just doesn't know how to read it. Like, she's so young that she doesn't know exactly how to read it. She's starting to understand, though, because she goes, Daddy, you know, and everything. Like, and it's that kind of fatherly bond that Barrett is really feeling right there towards Marlene. Now, this ending piece right here is so damn much like Final Fantasy XIII's ending. Like, the ending for FF7 Remake, corny song aside, definitely is reminiscent. You know, FF7 Remake is definitely reminiscent of what they did with FF13, of, you know, the sunset and everything. Now, this could be very well coincidence, you know, going on. And they even say something of a line of, it's coming up here. When prayers turn to promise, not even fate can stand in their way. As in, you know, like Cloud is promising he's going to end. Let hope in our heart to achieve the impossible. The fate of the universe is in Cloud's hands. Now we live on to greet a new dawn. I mean, it's kind of even on the nose of like they might be rehashing what they already did with 13 into 7. You know, the choices, you know, fate is, what is it? Destiny and fate is like, you know, a blank slate. It's a real hardcore rehash of like what they already did with FF13. I think they're just trying to do like a better version of FF13 because there's a lot of hate around FF13. I don't get it. I think the story was pretty decent. Okay, so one thing I will say about this is the main guy that's kind of like so the main villain guy that's like hounds you through FF13 is kind of like Sephiroth in the fact that he's very poetic, but he's just a harbinger for the main, what is it, Fal'Cie, that, you know, the Fal'Cie is basically Genova in the essence of like Genova given the Mako live stream to everyone. The Fal'Cie literally feeds everyone with life on Cocoon, you know, same way that it does, you know, everybody in the slums and everything underneath. It's literally the same story.
Shines on, once freed from its fleshly shroud.
Dodge! Sarah!
It even plays up the same type of like character interaction of things too. Very similar reign right here.
Dreams, meanwhile.
This guy is basically Sephiroth of 13.
Dodge!
And as you can see, you know,
Hey, listen. It isn't real. It's just Fal'Cie smoke and mirrors.
which, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake is built on smoke and mirrors. That's literally it's almost like I said, it's like the rehash in the storyline. There is a line somewhere in here also where it is said that that us fal'Cie, we give life to everyone in Cocoon, same way that Mako gives life. But Cocoon's end is imminent.
Orphan and make it quick as an act of mercy.
It's Orphan.
Mercy.
There we go. So Orphan is basically just like Genova in that in the two characters are very similar.
You mean murder. And Cocoon won't die. We're not here for that. We came for you.
Which is kind of like the whole crew getting together to face off against a Sephiroth type. This is where I think kind of it is pretty cool that the remake is kind of, instead of it being just kind of like Cloud, like I guess in the original the whole crew does come together, but I don't know. I feel like they just took that little bit more of like a family approach, and then okay, you bring together the whole family of the crew in FF7, and it's Cloud, you got Tifa, you got Aerith, you got Barrett, you got the whole crew is there, and then they all go after Sephiroth. I feel like that's the reason why the last boss fight was handled a lot differently, a lot more like cinematically, just to bring this kind of family thing.
Suffering. Focus tomorrow. You will obey.
Even this kind of last boss fight too, the one-winged angel, and you have like the angel of the fal'Cie and all that. Like again, very rehashing. The remake is very rehashing of FF7. Now that's all that rehashing leads me to believe that Part 2 is going to feel a lot like FF13 Part 2, in the fact that Cloud is going to turn into a kind of like Time Lord S. So just as Lightning turns into like this Time Lord-ish type of character where she is fighting for, the time and space and the clock is ticking down, so she has to turn into this, this like warrior goddess and, take on all the stuff that is, these other characters that are also trying to, bring balance. Or it's been a while since I played 13, but I remember very distinctively seeing a lot of kind of the same, like the ending boss fight. The ending boss fight for FF7 Remake reminded me so much of this opening for Final Fantasy 13-2. Just in the fact that like there's very similar kind of, Cloud and Lightning kind of start being these very powerful kind of warriors, but I think Lightning kind of outdoes what Cloud is doing in Remake on like the power scale. But I think it's going to be something like this, of Cloud becomes like super powerful to go against, what Sephiroth is becoming, because he has to keep up with Sephiroth. Sephiroth is becoming too damn powerful. Sephiroth wants to see the end of everything. That's the reason why. And I mean, if you think about it, it's like you have a major telling that, to me, is a major telling that their fate, their destiny, as it may be. And again, it's kind of the same even color scheme going on too. I just noticed that FF13-2 has. I feel like this ending that is like Kingdom Hearts style ending is very reminiscent of 13-2, and lo and behold, the people that wrote Final Fantasy 13's trilogy is also the ones that wrote Kingdom Hearts. So it doesn't really surprise, knowing that fact, that this feels very. I don't think they were going for Kingdom Hearts. I think they were going for, well, the boss fight is going for Kingdom Hearts. The story itself is going for Final Fantasy 13. As you can see, Cloud is starting to become like, he's starting to become more powerful. He can now start, jumping through the whole, system of gravity and such. As you'll see, he starts to have, this is why I was saying Cloud starts having a very Lightning-esque moment right here, where he just starts like bouncing between rubble. He's got wicked quick reflexes and everything, which he's always had, but this is even on a higher level, it feels like to me. Again, so this whole boss fight area right here, like this whole like Kingdom Hearts style boss fight, I think this is like Jenova trying to keep them on the right track to leading them to Sephiroth. Like Jenova needs a way of getting them to be so powerful that they can face off against Sephiroth. Jenova needs a way of bringing them together so their bond is so tight that it can't not be broken by Sephiroth any which way. So then in the second game, if Sephiroth does play the mind games with Cloud and makes him go absolutely insane, they can still bring Cloud back. And I think it's just it's a very, very big time tell of like character building. So this moment right here, we are getting into like the hardcore layers of the storytelling. I know this video is going on forever, but there's a lot here to unpackage. So I heard something about that these might be the Advent Children. The Advent Children being are pieces of Sephiroth that are kind of like, I think they're slight clones, but they're very, like newborn clones. I definitely see this fight being the Advent Children though. And the reason why, because Jenova is behind all of this stuff. So the Advent Children, instead of it being like newborn guys that are kind of like in the movie, because they're kind of like they're just dumb newborns, like parts of Sephiroth. The Advent Children turn out to be like these guardian spirits, kind of reminiscent of like the guardian gods of Final Fantasy 15 that Noctis talks to get like the other ultimate power. I think it was something like that. I only played the vanilla version of FF15, so if that's a little bit different now or whatever, I'm just remembering the version I played. So to see that, to see that if that is Jenova bringing in the Advent Children, it would just go to further the whole theory of that Jenova is trying to work against Sephiroth, while Sephiroth is also on his own personal agenda mission, and that, Jenova is using parts of Sephiroth to try and push Cloud and Tifa and Barret forward into being even more powerful of their own right, so they can get, good enough to take, because Jenova is not a woman, is just a thing. It's like it's an organism. It just takes the shape of a woman. And after the head gets cut off, or at least we think it does, by Sephiroth, because we never actually see the head. We see a blood trail, and we see what we presume to be a head that Sephiroth cuts off. We don't really know. Unless there is another cutscene that I did not see, very well could be. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, these are the like Advent Children. Also, the more that you cut all these guys down and everything, the more that you start getting, the flashbacks and everything. So one of the big tells right here, this is a scene from Advent Children. It's also seen in the original game, but this is directly taken out of Advent Children. Now, when Barret asks, "What the hell did I just see?" Red 13 comes back with, "A glimpse of tomorrow if we fail here today." Which means if we don't get stronger, then the predetermined destiny with a capital D that Red was already talking about before. Now, Red, I think Jenova is talking to Red, but Jenova is also probably telling Red, like, you have to lead them. I think this is the reason why, part of the reason why we don't actually get to play as Red 13, because Red 13 is technically just a plot point. Which is, it's fine because he's not letting on as much as he knows. Aerith is also getting whispers, I think, from Genova, as I said before, like, telling her, okay, these people, that's the reason why she knows all the characters, because Genova's already introducing her to the characters, because Genova sees that Aerith can bring everybody together. What's the one constant? Aerith is always kind of bringing everyone together. Aerith is, Aerith doesn't, I don't think Aerith knows the reason why of like, okay, Cloud has to be with Tifa. I'm not quite sure why, but there's something in the great beyond that's telling me that they're meant to be. So, of course, it's Aerith's characteristics. Play matchmaker, put them together. So then now the next one is, if you all fail, Sephiroth is going to bring in a huge, this huge asteroid and just demolish the planet. That's what they're probably seeing out of this. Now we know that it's, to get Sephiroth one with the planet, but they don't know that. So I think that's what, it's Genova's like warning of like, okay, Sephiroth is going to try and become all powerful by this, but I don't think the message gets through clearly to Cloud and Tifa and Barrett and all them, and maybe even Aerith doesn't even realize what exactly the message is. It's basically like all the characters are almost like a fortune teller at that time of like, okay, I'm seeing something, a fortune teller. Of like, I'm seeing something, the world is telling me something of, glimpses of a possible future. That's the reason why that possible future is pushing your face so much, because nothing's set in stone. So again, the Advent Children, they do call in Bahamut in Advent Children, the movie, which is, but you can find it on YouTube though. Of Bahamut being summoned, and everybody having to come together to defeat him in basically like the last big boss fight scene of Advent Children. I think Advent Children is kind of just getting. Here's the thing. I think all this stuff, everything that of the original game that is being shown in this Advent Children and all that stuff is all being actually retconned. I do think like I said, the future is uncertain. Everything that you think you don't know, because everything is getting shifted around. Everything's getting retold and everything. So everything that you've seen in these flashbacks is stuff that is possible, but is definitely not for sure. And that would just actually lead me to the point of believing that maybe part 2 is going to be multiple choice. Your choices affect of what you see. So when Cloud sees that Aerith could be killed, is like a major thing of that. I think you can probably save her. I'm going to be on that boat right here saying that I think you can save Aerith in part 2 if you make the right decisions. So now again, we go into, the Sephiroth Cloud fight. I think that's Genova's way of telling Cloud of like, yes, you are the chosen one to go against Sephiroth. You can beat him if you play your cards the right way, if you get strong enough. I think this is all Genova's way of like telling these characters this. Okay, so at this point right here, I think this is where they kind of try and incorporate a lot of the Advent Children stuff into this, but just redo it, make it with better CGI, because this definitely looks better than the movie, and just update the storyline to where, okay, Sephiroth, you can see like Sephiroth is getting so like overly powered that he can literally bring the destruction of the world, but does he want to stop there? Does he want to take over time and space itself? This is where I think we're getting into, is time and space itself right here. This is what Sephiroth is kind of showing Cloud of like, yeah, I'm going to do it. You watch. You can't stop me. Being the cocky, and this right here is absolutely Advent Children. Like there's no denying this whole scene right here is 100% Advent Children. Like they start, flipping and dipping and sword fighting midair, and there's buildings crashing. Like this is, that last Sephiroth fight in Remake is literally the movie, the game. It looks identical to it. So I mean, you go from this to this, which I think is just their way of like remaking it to make it look way better. Again, Cloud is kind of getting into that, very lightning style, powered up, full on soldier role. Again, I don't think Cloud is like the fake soldier like he was in the original. I think he is a legitimate soldier. He learned everything from soldier, became one of the best. Sephiroth sees that and wants to use Cloud as, like his right hand man. And how far until Cloud breaks and just becomes, one with me, to be super powered, to end up trying to take over time and space itself. Okay, so here's a huge one. So remember the explosion that Zack was seeing? This is the explosion that Zack was seeing right here. You can even see the particles coming out. It's the same exact particles. So then Sephiroth, because that's the reason why Sephiroth has a little smirk. He has this little, everybody's like, it's just a villain smirk. It's not just a villain smirk. Sephiroth knows exactly what Cloud's about to do. He's looking at him like, yes, let me show you what I want to show you. And then boom, explosion happens. While all this is happening, Zack is fighting all those soldiers and powering himself up and leveling himself up. So this is literally time and space, which, as far as I know, Final Fantasy Lightning Returns kind of has the same thing also, where lightning goes into like time and space or such. I have never played Lightning Returns. I still actually have to. I plan to very soon. But now we are into the aspect of like the creation of time and space and everything, and like how Sephiroth can actually destroy everything. He's trying to become this powerful, and he is figuring out ways of doing it. I mean, this is the dawn of creation. Now, a huge one is Sephiroth's plan to try and have them become so powerful that it powers up Aerith to become powerful enough to resurrect the Ancients. Now, this is something that I was also thinking. If the Ancients get resurrected and Sephiroth can, control their power, then he has literally every single type of power source that he can even imagine to come up with, and he can control it all. Can he become that powerful to create the Ancients like promised land or whatever? That's Shinra. So Shinra's whole thing is that Genova is kind of pushing to get what is it? So Genova is trying to use Shinra to get the promised land back up and run by using Sephiroth. If I have the whole timeline storyline correct there, I don't think Shinra is getting the job done. So therefore, Genova starts looking for other ways of getting the job done. Therefore, send Sephiroth after Cloud. Cloud powers up with Zack also, and the whole team, because Aerith is the last of the Ancients. So how to resurrect that species? Cloud meets up with Aerith. Genova uses Sephiroth to make Cloud, and the rest of them meet up with Aerith, the last of the Ancients, and then lead Aerith to the path of the land of her people to resurrect everything, to get this ginormous power source going. So then Genova can maybe even become the ultimate. I think Genova is going to be the ultimate boss fight. I think that's actually where part 3 is going. Sephiroth is going to be like the pawn, and Sephiroth is going to be so hurt and distraught that you can actually take him out before he kills Aerith. And then it's going to be like Aerith and Cloud, Tifa and Barret versus Genova. Genova is trying to just resurrect the Ancients just so it can survive, because it's hell torn on just surviving, and that's the only way it can. Probably that's a video game trope thing. That's a very, very video gamey type of storyline that we've seen over and over and over again in other types of, in other types of gaming stories. So the other big one, like 7 seconds, I don't think that has anything to do with like the death. I think it's just 7 seconds it takes for the meteor to come down. Rufus. All right, so this is where everybody gets very, I think that right there. So them showing this dog right here of it being different, there is different Avalanche cells now. Avalanche is way bigger. So here's where my brain went when I seen this. It's a different cell. This is what it's hinting at. There's a different cell in the area. Zack knows Avalanche from being around Aerith's house and Avalanche being in her backyard. Now, everything is on the same timeline. This is not a different timeline. This is not a secondary timeline. Everything. So the explosion has not happened yet, I don't think. Yes, okay. So that's the explosion hasn't happened yet. Avalanche is in the area. Zack doesn't know it. Player doesn't know it. Although they should, because of the bag. Sephiroth and Cloud go to the realm of existence, the edge of existence, time and space itself. That's how you're seeing all this, everything disappears and everything, because the extension of Genova has been destroyed. So therefore, all the whispers and everything fade away, because whispers are a part of Genova. I mean, it feels like it makes sense to me. Now, instead of Zack dying, I think here's the real big one that people are either going to totally agree or not. Okay, so this right here is a flashback, but from whose perspective? Now keep watching. Keep watching this very closely. It's a flashback. It is absolutely a flashback of when Zack is dragging Cloud over and through. Now, you're going to hear my dumb voice in the background a little bit. So at this moment right here, this is such a pinnacle moment. Whose flashback is it? Is it Cloud's flashback or is it Aerith's? If it is Cloud's flashback, doesn't mean that Zack is absolutely dead, because, I mean, hell, we've seen Barrett get, sliced and he gets resurrected by the Whisperers. It could very well be is that, once again, Genova, playing around with fate and destiny, holds Zack right there, keeps him alive, drops him in Phoenix down, whatever. And I think before Zack dies, I think a cell of Avalanche comes and rescues Zack, and that's what we're going to end up playing in Final Fantasy VII Part 2. It's going to be from Zack's point of view. It's going to start out tutorial mission. So I heard Maximilian Dude say actually that would be a really cool thing is like. I don't know if exactly, I didn't quite catch which moment he was talking about, but I think he was saying Sephiroth, Zack, and Cloud when they go into the hometown and everything, and that whole thing of like Sephiroth going mad and seeing, am I just a clone? Am I just a monster? And that whole build-up of that is going to be like this mega huge opener of like a tutorial of how to play the game and everything. We are going to be playing as Zack though, as like a main thing, as a main character, just like Final Fantasy Part 13 Part 2 was Sarah Lightning's sister. We're going to be Zack. We're going to be playing it as Zack, Cloud's best friend from the soldier days. But Zack, what it's going to end up being is Zack is actually working with Avalanche, and along the travels that, sooner or later, you're going to switch over to Cloud. and Cloud is going to be in the airship with Sid and the rest of them. They'll probably introduce all that stuff, and then you have to go to Zack's hometown, which is where, boom, Zack sees Aerith again. A reunion happens. And then that's going to be like a whole, however they play that stuff all out, who knows? Again, hopefully they give us like choices so we can actually play the story out the way we want it to. This would shift around. It would make, you could still have the similar events happen, but it would shift around and make the story just that much more impactful, because now you have two characters that were just talking about it in the original. Now you actually have this whole bond happening. Cloud and Tifa, Zack and Aerith double date night at the Golden Saucer. Why not? Let's make it happen. Also on top of that, it could be a possible death in there somewheres, Aerith or maybe even Tifa, and then all of a sudden one of the two goes mad and Sephiroth uses them as a pawn or something. Like, there's so many different ways you could go with that story. But again, it's all comes down to which perspective this is from. It seems like Aerith's also having a flashback here. This is why I'm saying. Now, it could very well be that Aerith is having the same flashback as Cloud, but Aerith is imagining it, where Cloud is actually having the flashback. Aerith is imagining the flashback of, like, this is the same spot that Zack was telling me about from the grave. So Zack could be also dead at that point. We really don't know how the story is going to go. It's so hard to tell. If it is, which perspective is it? If Zack is totally dead and he was telling Aerith from the grave, then Zack is absolutely gone. And then it comes down to, like, it might just turn into a love triangle between Aerith, Cloud, and Tifa at that point. And that'd be a whole other way the story can go and everything. It really depends on how they play the story out. I don't think we know. I don't think anybody's figured it out. I miss it. The steel sky. Sky being underneath the plate, because she also basically says, like, that's where instead of it being like a hometown, and she says it's something about, like, I really love the slums because you look up and you see the steel sky and it feels like something about boxing in her emotions or something like that. I don't know exactly what it was. I have to replay the game over again because you're taking it all in. You get lost in it. But yep, this is the ending. All right. The unknown journey will continue. Exactly. The unknown journey will continue. Meaning, I don't think anybody can figure out exactly which way they're going, because it's a double plot twist, or maybe not a double plot twist. It's a two split and fork in the road, and it's a 50-50 shot of whether or not, which train do you jump on board on. Maybe Zack gets picked up by the Avalanche cell. Then you have a choice to make. If you make the wrong choice, Zack dies or Zack lives. So then you have two branching storylines. I mean, if they do branching storylines like that, and there's like major differences, they can do it with next gen. It's totally possible to do it with next gen, because we've seen it be done with Dragon Age and Mass Effect and different games like that. Definitely doable. Takes a lot of work to do. Also like a Quantum Dreams game, like if one character gets killed off, then it's a totally different scene later on in the game. It's very doable. On this scale, you're going to need next gen for it. So that's why I say the next part 2 is absolutely going to be a next gen title. And we do know that development has already started. So a few years, hopefully, we'll see. But I think that's going to cover the most part of everything. Yeah, because the rest of this is just me kind of just doing what I'm doing right now on video. But yeah, That's like an hour's worth of like plot twists and everything. That's what I'm thinking. That's all my thoughts on Final Fantasy VII. The spoiler infested review thing of the whole shebang, if you will. That's where I think the storyline is going to be going. I really believe that we're going to be seeing. It's going to come down to the first leak, to the first screenshot, to the first trailer. I don't know. My gut feeling says anything that you think you know, you actually don't know. I think we got tidbits of everything, but we're not seeing the full story at all. Nowhere near close. As much as detailed and like extra story that has already been done. I will say one thing from the gameplay standpoint that goes kind of in the storytelling. I really hope the world map it's not like a Final Fantasy 15 situation. I hope it's like kind of like a teleport. You're on the airship as your main base, almost in the sense kind of like Doom Eternal does, where you're on the airship. Sid's cracking wisecrack jokes. Maybe you got Yuffie over there, and kind of actually think of it like Mass Effect in a way, where you're on the airship and you see a destination. You go to your little mini world map and then go, okay, we're going to go fly over to, this location over here. You go over there, you do a few missions, do some side missions or whatever. It's kind of a town and whatnot. We're going to fly over to the Golden Saucer and we're going to do the Vegas trip. Then we're going to fly over to the crater, and that's going to be like your final boss fight and everything. It's probably not in the third one, but you know what I'm saying. And then, hell, they could add DLC little map areas too of like, okay, now it's time, just like Mass Effect did back in the day. So like we've seen this stuff be done before. We have next gen and everything. There's a lot of love going into this whole production and everything. So I think we're going to see a lot more, and it's just going to blow everybody's minds even more. So yeah. I think that's going to do it. That's a little over an hour of recording. I don't know how long this video is going to come out. It's probably going to be a very long one, and nobody's going to watch it, but that's all right because I got my words out there. This is something that I've had in my head ever since I finished the game, ever since I started playing the game. I kind of figured I wanted to make a video like this just to get it recorded, get my thoughts out there. So if you have stuck around for the full video, thank you. If you agree, disagree, whatever, it's totally fine. I think everything is up to perspective and like whether or not you have nostalgia for the original game. It also comes down to whether or not you want the original story or if you want something new, if you want a mix of the two or whatever. That's what this whole remake has been all about. Same thing with like Resident Evil 3 remake and all that too. Is been the same kind of like people want to hold on to the nostalgia. They want the remake. They want the really coolness of the remake, but they don't want to let go of that nostalgia. And it's a very fine balancing act. Like I said, no matter which way you think about, my predictions, they are just predictions. Me, like everyone else, nobody knows how this next game is going to come out. We could all be totally wrong. It could be the best game ever. It could be the worst game ever. It could be just kind of like, okay, it might not live up to what the remake is, this current remake. Who knows? They could add a totally new, different character that destroys Jenova and Sephiroth and is the next big bad guy of the Final Fantasy universe. We don't know. We have no idea. Aerith could be the big bad guy. We don't know. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. I will be streaming more Final Fantasy VII Remake in the very near future. I have been taking a few days off of stream because I was streaming a lot of Final Fantasy, doing the first run through. The hardcore run, I checked it out last night. It seems like a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll definitely try and get around to doing that. Maybe I'll have more of a little bit of a Let's Talk live on stream. Let's Talk Live, as I call them. Just as I play through the game and maybe I catch more little details and things. So yeah. The live streams should be happening pretty soon. I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of time just to do a little bit of competitive games, maybe a couple days. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. You'll have to tune in and see. Go and check out the Twitch channel. You can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. Anyways, Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see ya next time.